Sponsored by Ohio Travel Bag. I've been buying handbag hardware from Ohio Travel Bag for over 20 years. Visit Ohio Travel Bag. Scan the code.
Okay, hi, this is Richard, and as I said in the introduction, we're going to be doing the Eva Maria bag, a spring color, and so we've got our pattern pieces together, and I'm just going to go over a quick explanation of our pattern pieces. Would be at the school. This is what we would be in like our advanced course. So I'm going to try to explain it quickly so others may understand it. So the very first thing we're going to start with is our front and back. And so here's the front and back of my bag. Once we do that, we need to make our broken bottom stay, and we need to make a broken bottom gusset stay. We've already developed our flap also, but what most important thing I'm going to go over with you is the gusset and the bottom, because they add the functionality to the bag. After you've flattened out your oak tag, and I use oak tag because you can trace a few times before the pattern starts to break down, or manila paper. I think they call it manila paper too. So I'm going to go ahead and score this. Then after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and make a pen mark just about the middle and score again. Let me take a moment here and get my longer ruler. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and score this pattern paper again, cross score it. Okay. And you'll see how the cross scoring will help as we develop the pattern. This is a bit big, but we're going to start here. So the very first thing we want to do, some things out of the way. The very first thing we want to do is determine, okay, here's our pattern, and we want to determine how far or how wide we want the bag to open at the bottom, because with a broken bottom, the bottom is going to fold like this, and you'll see why. That's usually, you'll see it on envelopes, you can see it on any kind of bag, but it tends to fold like this. So the very first thing we want to do is figure out how wide we want the bottom. So what we got here is, look around, I know it's 3.5. So what we got here is 3.5. So you take your pattern paper, and then you're going to go ahead and pin 3.5. That'd be, so 3.5. That's what, 3.5. How much is 3.5? 3.5 is 1 3/4. So we're gonna go. My ruler's terrible. You see the numbers. So we're gonna go down 1 3/4. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and pin. Then I'm gonna go ahead and take that, flip it, and pin again. Okay. All right. So that's our first measurement. So when we go between the pins and we measure, this should be exactly 3.5, which is what we have. So that's how wide the bottom is going to be. Now, because this is a broken bottom, false bottom, you need to now determine how much do you want this false bottom to be. So, let me give you an idea of what we're talking about. When the bag is finished with, it's going to sit up on the edges like this. So what you have to determine is how much of an edge you want to sit up. And the bottom will sit here, the edge will sit up, okay? So that's the next thing you have to determine. So let's see, now we're gonna go ahead and just say, I want it to be a ½ inch more. I want it to be a ½ inch. So I go down to mine, got my one. And now I'm just gonna go down another ½ inch and pin. Now this ½ inch allows your foot to sit on the back, or like you could sew this with a flat bed. So it allows your foot to sit on the edge without slipping off. It gives it room, it gives you room to sew, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and mark that. Okay, now that's what we got. Now the next thing we have to do, we have to make a window. Let me go ahead and draw this out for you so you can get a visual idea of what's going on here. Okay. Okay. Let me go ahead and do this on the other side so we can see how the pattern is going to develop. It seems kind of weird right this second, but it'll all pan out, trust me. Okay, so now we're looking at the bottom, but of course it's too big. So now we need to know the length that this needs to be so it's going to fit in the right place on our bag. So now we go back to our master pattern, and mine is a little messy, and my students say, gee, my patterns look better than yours. And that's true. You know, sometimes the teachers don't necessarily, don't do as I do as I say do. So anyway, what we're going to do here, I made various pinhole marks here. But right here is a pinhole mark, right? And this pinhole is 1/2 inch from the edge. Yeah, about 1/2 inch from the edge. And from the bottom, a 1/2 inch. So that's why this is a 1/2 inch, because the bottom is going to stop right here on the pattern. That's where the bottom is going to stop. So what we need to do is measure the distance between these two holes. And so what we ended up with in this particular case is 10 and 7/8. I mean 10 and 7/8. Okay, so that's what we ended up with. So we go down here. Whoops. Go down here. Well, here, let me do this first. Let me do some cutting here real quick so we can get a better idea of what's going on. That's my plane. My home is, believe it or not, in a flight path. Ha ha ha. But it makes me feel like I'm in the city. So now, and I'm gonna go ahead and score this so you can see how this develops. Okay, now I need that distance between here and 10 and 7/8. So what's that gonna be? 10 and 7/8. I have to figure that one out. So that's 10 and 7/8. Whoops, let me turn this around, that might help. 10 and about right here. Okay. Then I'm gonna take that and go like that. And see, so like it's like once you do your measurement in this cross scoring, you can just transfer without having to remeasure. And so now we need to go ahead and cut. And hopefully this will work. I didn't really cut that the way I wanted to. I'm a little off right here. Let me trim this. And you want to keep your patterns exact, because once they start to go out of whack, you know, they just kind of tend to continue that way. So anyway, here we are. Now we need to make the break, or to make it go like this in the middle, all right? Okay, so what we're going to do now is determine how wide we want our window to be. And this is a window break, okay? And this is going to be cut out of the stay to create that, I call it path of least resistance. So that's what we have to do next. So in this particular case, mine is, looks like a quarter of an inch. Yeah, it looks like about a quarter of an inch. But whatever you decide, you just go down here and you figure out, oh, if it's an eighth, that's going to be a quarter, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Go 3/16. So I'm going to take it, fold it, and transfer that to here. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and make some lines. Whoop. But before I do that, I'm going to back off. Oh, I go like maybe, this is going to be like a little cutout. I like to make them very thin. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to go, just so you'll see, I'm going to go like this. All right, and I'll make that pinhole, and then I can go like this, and then I know that it's in the same place on each side. Okay, now you go here. I'm going to go ahead and draw these lines in, give you some sort of sense of what's going on. Be a little bit straighter than that. Okay, and oops. Anyway, I'll fix that up. Cross there, there, there. Get the eraser out. Okay. Now, this little maneuver technique, this little simple broken bottom technique, excuse me for sniffling, it's pretty cool for when you like want to do your wallet or something like that. You want it to bend. Anytime you want something to bend in a certain place, this is what you use. So this is a cutout. Okay, and in this case, you just cut one of these. And this will be leather. And then whatever you've named your bag, you put the name here. And this is your stay pattern. Okay. Now, the next piece you're going to make is your gusset. So as I was saying, the next piece we have to do is our gusset. And like oak tag comes rolled up and it's like this, so what you got to do is just reverse it or put it on the edge or something like that, and just do it the opposite way and it flattens right out. So the next thing we have to do is go ahead and score this down the middle here. That wasn't exactly down the middle, but hopefully we have enough here to get it done. Let me see, just to make sure. Barely. We'll see. We will see. So to give you an example how this goes, now we know that this is 3.5. So we go over here and we figure out 3.5, so that's going to be 1 3/4. 1, 2, 3. No. See, I can't see on that. It's like this old thing going on, you know? I don't know what that is. It's like this old, you know, you just like, I can't get it. So anyway, 3/4, okay, here we are. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pin there, 3/4. And you know what? I don't think my paper is going to be, but we'll see. And then we're going to do 1 3/4 again. Okay, and then we're going to draw a line. I don't think I got enough paper. Boo-hoo. But anyway, what happened to my pencil? There's my pencil. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw a line here. Now, normally when I'm doing this, I have the music on, and, you know, I'm dancing. You know, it just gets me in the mood. So now that we've determined this, whoops, I did it on the wrong thing. Oh. I know I'm getting old, folks. So it goes, oh gosh, this way. Okay, let's do all that over again. Okay, that's right, that's right. So we do the line here. I know. You go like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, I do. I do. Trust me. So there's our first, and this is the bottom. This represents the bottom of the bag. And here is exactly 3.5. Okay, so that's, if we want to look at it, that's what we got going on right there. Okay. Now the next thing though we want to do is we need, since this is the vertical piece, we need this master and we need to duplicate this shape. And so to do that, we've drawn this line, but we also need to determine how much do we want it to open at the top. Normally, if the bottom is 3 inches, then you want the top to open wider, inch wider, 2 inches wider. Depends on your preference. So because my paper is limited, I'm just going to go, this is 3.5, so I'm just going to say, well, I want it to open 3.5, 4 1/4, this would be 4.5, yeah, 4 1/4 is, 2 1/4 is 4.5, right. Okay, 2 1/4 there, 2 1/4 here. And then we're going to go ahead and draw another line. Lots of lines, lots of lines. Now you want to be accurate here, because this is the proof of the pudding. So now we got line A and line B. Okay, So what we're going to do is I need to find this. Now, normally I could swing it down here and I did straighten one edge, the one at the bottom here, but I'm going to just do it my way. You know, the funny part about it is you can be taught by the best, and somehow, some way, you screw it up and you start doing it your way. And so this is my way. So what I do is just go ahead and I'll pin randomly on my line like that, and then I'll find my little hole, and somehow I know when that's in there, the right place. Now, what you do at this point is you take your front and back, your master, and you swing it over to where the top of the bag is going to open. So, now we've swung it open, so my bag is going to open right about here. Right about here. So I want, that's where it's going to stop, right about there. So now I'm going to hold that in position. I am going to trace it. And this is going to give me the shape. It's going to duplicate the shape of the front and back of this. All right, the side will duplicate that. So there we go. So now that I've done that, now I'm going to just take it off. I'm through with this, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, you can see where the top here is at a point. Well, what happens when the bag closes, this will push up. And so if you have a flap there and it pushes up, then it's like they're touching, or once something bends and it doesn't quite work well. So what you want to do is drop that down so it's out of the way of your flap and doesn't go over the top of your bag. In this particular case, normally you do about 1/8 of an inch, but in my case I want it to be a little bit more because that's my preference. And that's what it is. It's always your preference. Everything is not written in stone, okay? So now I have that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my first cut, and then we're gonna cut out the gusset. And here it is, here we go. So we're gonna go ahead and cut here. Okay, got other. And then we're gonna just go ahead and cut this out. And if this takes me too long, the next time you see me, I'll be at the end of it, okay? But maybe it won't. So you want to carefully cut around. I tend to spin my work rather than, I try not to take the knife out. But if I do, I hope to have it in a nice start point. But when I'm going around the curve, it's nice and short, and I kind of spin it. I don't try to twist the knife, and just try to stay on it as much as I can. But you just want it to make sure that your curves are nice and smooth. And then any correction you need to do, you can do it once you put everything together, and sand your edges, because this is a raw edge bag. Polish them with some beeswax and be real nice, and you go out and sell it for a lot of money. So anyway, here we go. It's not too bad. Okay, here's my last little scallop. Right. Okay, and then across to here. Okay, this little piece right here is very, very important, because it's going to meet up at the bottom and complete the whole thing. Now what we're going to do is just go ahead down here. We got this little, where we started out, that point, that's that 1/2 inch. So we're going to make that. And then I'm going to go over here like this and finish this cut all the way across. Okay. Oops, I didn't go, my knife didn't go all the way through. So here, let me just tighten this up a little bit. I don't want to pull too tight. Excuse me, throat got dry. Fingers is dry, you know that? But anyway, so we got this. So we got this all cut out. Throw these little pieces away real quick. And this is our gusset, but now I'm going to cut this out. See those little pins right there. I'm going to cut like that and cut like that. But I don't want to cut this off. What I want to do here is I'm going to score this across. Okay, like this. So this now bends under, and this now fits this like this. See how that goes? So I'm going to show you how that's going to look in my mock-up in just a moment, but there's some few other things. Hold on, let me find it. I want to show you. There's a few other things I wanted to show you about the gusset that you have to do. Now remember that I spoke about this being a broken bottom. So what that means is things have to bend when the bottom goes up. When the bottom goes up, something's got to bend. So what we have to do is get ready to make sure that the gusset will bend with it. Because if the gusset doesn't bend with it, then everything is going to fight each other, and it's going to look stupid and not work, you know. People are going to look at you like, you don't know what you're doing, sucker. But anyway, so that's where we are. Now, I need to put in these cuts. So now we know there's this one cut right down the middle, because you know that, right? So that'll bend, so you need this to bend with this, okay? So what we do is we make windows. And as you can see, I've made a series of windows here. And basically it's the same as I did over here. We know that this is the bottom, and where this bottom is, we also know that this is going to bend this way or outward. So we know this is going to bend back this way, because this is where let me get back here to explain it. This is where this area is, and this area is basically false. And I'll show you when I get through with this. I'll show you what I mean, and you'll understand better. So we need to make these windows, and I'm not going to go ahead and I'm just going to explain to you where they are and why they're here. So we have, this is on one edge, this is on the other edge. This is straight down the middle. This right here is, when you're used to making these, you'll understand if you cut this and you cut that out, it makes the leather do this and it makes the leather do this. So I kind of want the leather to kind of fold in right here in this little into like a little V. So I'm going to remove some of the stay here. I'm going to remove the stay here. I'm going to remove the stay here and remove it there so that everything bends the way I want to. So that's pretty much how it goes. And if you understand everything else I've said, then you'll understand what I just said. So Now with all of this said, I'm going to show you where I'm at in the process. And again, I just, you'll have to, I'm waiting for I'm waiting now on the hardware tip. Oh, here, let me show you on the flap. Now we go to the flap. And since I'm hand sewing this, some things need to be done. So I've basically marked exactly where my stitch needed to go on the back of the bag. And I've also made the beginning of my strap, which is going to be this. It's part of the strap. This is part of the applique that's going to hold the strap in place and also reinforce it so it's a little bit thicker, heavier, and it'll look really nice. This is the cutout. As you can see, I'm using a veggie tan that I've gotten, and right here is this hole, and that's from this hardware that I got from OTB. And I'm waiting for them to send me some more hardware, some silver, or what do you call it? Yeah, silver chrome, whatever you want to call it. So that will go in there. And then I got some other things coming, some handle loops from OTB, and then that'll go there. So when OTB comes in, I'm going to show you all of that other stuff there and how that goes. This should be just a day or two. By then, this will be pretty much moving along. So the next thing I got to do is just put my stitch holes there. We know that's where it's going to go. And then I'm thinking of trying to do some sort of braided handle stuff. Now, that's the flap. Now let me show you, catch you up to where I'm at. I pretty much, you've seen the pattern there, and I was trying to explain to you how this gusset and this bottom, so I'm going to cut stays, and these stays will be made out of Bontex or maybe even a Pellin, depending on how. I'd love to have some bonded leather to do these stays out of, but I don't. It's expensive to get. So let me go over it. Now here is the raw bag before I've done anything, before I've dyed it. I have put in my holes, stitch holes, and you go like, oh my God, you put in all those stitch holes. How the devil are you ever going to line it up? Well, I have a little secret tip, because sewing handbags by hand is kind of difficult. And because it depends on the lining, it depends on a lot of stuff, but it's difficult. And so what I do is I got to figure out, so well, I got to put my stitch holes in, and then I have to line them back up. So what I do is I take one of these old pins, right, and then I go, oh, there it is. It lines it up. This is not glue, this is just rubber cemented on, so for demonstration purposes. So that's kind of how I do it. So once I know that I've gotten, say, like this many lined up perfectly, then when I go to press it all down, the rest will line up perfectly too. So I mean, it's haphazard. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but I'm a homebody, so I got to do it like a homebody would do it. So anyway, that's how I do it. I've already put my stitch holes in the back where my flap is going to go. Oops, sorry about that. So that's going to go like this. I already know where that's going to go. And that's going to pop over, and we start to see the bag come together. I am going to put a center divider inside of it. Now, to show you how the bottom, let me get it real quick. To show you how this whole bottom thing comes together in the actual bag, you know, you got this little piece here, and this little piece here, you actually stitch across it, and it holds the whole gusset in place. So you stitch across this, and then everything comes up like this, and then you stitch it. The 4 stitches, and the bag is complete, plus the bottom. and then you have to, of course, do your top stitch. So this is where we're at. So now let me show you how that came together. See here? Look. If you can see it, I want to make sure you can. Oh, you're out of frame. Ah, there it is. So see how that comes together? And that's what you want, because now this whole thing comes together. You can see when I sew it in place how nicely that's going to close that up like this. And that's going to be a stitch, and I'll continue, and my machine will be able to sit because it's got this whole half to sit on. And then as you can see here in the gusset, when I was saying I wanted it to be, I wanted to keep this shape. So when I put the stay in, this shape right here in the middle, right here in the gusset, right here in the gusset, right here, is what I want to highlight and accent and make sure that that's really, really nice. Then I'll finish the edges, put on the flap. I'm going to paint all of this, and then it's going to be, oh man, I'm going to find the holes, line them up, and hopefully it'll all work out. If it don't, well, then I have to do it again. But that's the premise of it. This is where we are at, okay? Okay, now that we've glued our stays into place, I'm just gonna kind of give you kind of show you how they work. And basically, when you're using stays, what you're doing is telling the leather what to do. It's like talking to it. I want you to bend this way, fold this way. And one of the ways you accomplish that is with stays. A stay can be made of pretty much anything. The reason you use Bontex is mostly because it works well in water. It doesn't mildew or mold or humid climates, things like that. So your bags don't get moldy or don't create fungus and things, little nasty things like that. So that's one of the reasons of why I use Bontex. You can use, if you want a more softer look or something a little bit has more body, more flexibility, you can use Pellin, you can use bonded leather. There are different materials. Once you get acquainted with making stays, then you realize that you can pretty much make them out of anything. So so what we've done here. Let me go ahead and show you the bottom of our bag and how that stay worked out. And we talked about how we wanted it to sit up on its edges. So now what we have here is with all the tabs removed, I did a little window cut here just so that I could have a bit of more flexibility and bend, and my look underneath is going to be a bit more natural. The other thing we've done to the stay is because this is a raw edge bag, I took away the stay is usually this is usually your master pattern, so this is the exact size that your bag will be when it's completed, and all patterns are made from the master. In this particular case, being raw edge, I didn't need the stay to actually come and cover where my stitch holes were, because that would have made my hand stitching much more difficult. So what I did was trimmed away a bit, and you can see that here. I trimmed this piece away so that I'd have room and it wouldn't be so difficult to sew. Now, this is our gusset stay, and I did the same thing here too, trim. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and pull this piece out, my own little dilly here, and this will get connected like this. and this will create all the bends, and the leather will do exactly what we intended to do. It'll also have a nice little fold as it goes in. It'll have a nice little fold like this. That will be really nice. So basically, stays is basically you're just talking to your leather and trying to get it to do what you want to. With Vegetan, sometimes they'll mold it with using water to soften it, mold it, and cast it a bit. But I use these stays, and I get a nice effect, which we'll see when I complete the bag. I'm going to go and finish doing some gluing, and we'll be back. And so at this point, as you can see, I've started to dye my leather. This is how it started out. I have my stitch holes, since this is going to be hand stitched. And the reason that I'm hand stitching it is really quite simple. I don't have really the right machine, nor am I proficient enough to sew that perfectly. So, when you can't do something with the machine, man's got to know his limitations and use his hands. So that's what I'm doing. So as you can see, I've dyed my leather. I have various pieces. This is over here is going to be where my handle assembly is going to go. This is our bottom. And over here, I wanted to show you, here, let me remove this real quick. Well, not remove it, just move it out of the way. And what I wanted to show you is how I tape it off and dye it. So I just kind of tape it off. And this one I've already done, so I'm going to do an unveiling here in front of you. If it's messed up, then, oh, I got to do it again. So here we are. And so the whole thing is to get my edges right. Those aren't bad. Ooh, those aren't bad. I see a little bit of that can be touched. And then we gotta go, but you gotta keep it nice down, nice and tight. And so what I do is I take the painter's tape and I kind of like run it all over my body, so it kind of reduces the stickiness of it at about 50%. And then I start the process of taking it off so that I can paint it. But what you have to do is you have to be careful so it don't bleed. So right here it bled a little, but fortunately for me, Linda has a master's in art and she'll be able to touch that up. And hopefully no one will notice it. So that's how that's going to go. So this is how this is going to look. And you can see it start to come together. Now, one of the things that did happen was my sponsor, OTB, sent me some hardware. And so the hardware I'm going to be using on this particular bag, I'm going to unleash it down for you, is a turn lock. What do they call it? I don't know, it's a kind of flowery kind of shape, but it fits into the scheme of this thing, which is the Eva Maria. Open the package without cutting myself. And so maybe I can ask them to send me better easier to package and open. So anyway, this is going to be our turn lock. I'll just slip this off. Shouldn't have did that. Kept it beautiful. So, and that's going to fit right about there. And this is what is this? Yeah, turn lock P2735. And then I got a lot of stuff, but I'm only going to show you what I'm going to be using on this bag. So, you know, when I'm going to be doing other bags in this series, and as I use it, I'll let you know what it is. But like to thank Ohio Travel Bag for providing this to me. I'm looking, they sent me something else. Ah, here they are. And I got these little things. I saw this in the catalog. Let me just show you this real quick. And these little babies. So sometimes, you know, you gotta, they said they'll get new stuff in, but, you know. Yeah. These are not so hard. So I got these things right here. And so I don't know if they'll work out or not, but I got them anyway just to kind of see if they were worth it. Oh, those are nice. So I might do something with them. But anyway, we're going to do a handle here. That's when you keep stuff from sticking to it. Yeah, do our handle there. Put some hardware here, and we should be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting my color here in the middle. Take this off and finish it up. And when I've done that, we'll go ahead and start working on our lining. Okay, and we also have to do the handle. So let me finish this. I'll be back. I was going to show you me spray painting, but you know that can be involved and things plug up. So rather than go through that, I just tried to show you the steps. But anyway, that's where we're going, and I'll be back. Okay, I just want to catch you up as to where we are in the process. As you can see, I've dyed all my pieces, my pattern pieces now, and I'm ready to start assembling the front, back, and the gusset. And then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and put our gussets on the bottom piece, and then put it all together, and then fit our lining. And then after I show you this, I'll come back with this all sewn together. We'll fit the lining in, and then at that point we still have the flap and the handle to go. As you can see, we're at this point, all our pieces have been dyed. And we also took the time to go ahead and dye some thread so that it would match the lavender here in the body of the bag. So at this point, we're really ready to go forward and assemble it and put our lining in and go from there. Now, before we go to all of that, one of the most important things about when you're assembling your bag is the sequence in which you put it together. In this particular case, the sequence, the way we put this together is very, very important. So what you have to do is to make sure that you do it correctly. So what we have here, eventually this will be sewn across. So what you do is first, you sew your gusset on, and you line it up, find your middle, you sew your gussets on like this, and stitch across. And it doesn't matter whether it's raw edge or turn, the sewing sequence for this is the same. Make sure you follow it the correct way, or you'll end up with difficulty later on trying to figure out, okay, how do I get it sewn properly? So you'll end up attaching these two pieces first. I still haven't put my stay in there. And it'll go something like this. Then you will sew on your front and back, then you'll sew on your front and back like this, and the whole thing will flip up, and your bag will be complete once you stitch in your gussets, and that's where we are. So I'm still hand stitching here, so it takes me a little while to get back, but that's where we are. And remember, when trying to attempt a bag like this, the sewing sequence is everything. So, it's looking good, Linda. Looking really good. Yeah. So this is our front and back, and I'm just putting the magnetic snaps into place. Okay. So we were just wanting to practice this handle to see how this would look. So we think we're going to do it. So we're going to get some new cording, and because I was just dying this to see how it's going to come out, but this is flat, and so we think we want round cording. So what we're going to do is go get some round cording, dye it, and then come back and redo that. But that'll be on the finished product. But other than that, that's about it. We're back, and as you can see, I got my stitching in. As I told you before, I've started to put my flap together. I still have the edges to do, and I've put them in my hardware. This handle look turned out to be a little bit, it's a very nice quality handle look, but it turned out to be a little bit more actually than I expected. So it turned out to be really, really nice. So I'm happy that we got it. I've got this from OTB, and the way it goes is you end up with this little cross section. I kept looking at it, I said, like, wow, what the heck? Where does this little piece go, you know? I thought, like, well, what's the purpose of it? And I couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden I figured it out, and it goes like this, and it makes that little cross, like, I mean, a little area like here, and this sits on top of it. So it ends up having a really nice effect. Now these little babies here, these are magnetic snaps, and they are really, they're more about the fact that they fit over this little prong than anything. They're not so strong. So what I decided to do with them is use them as guides for the flap. So when it goes down, it'll go over these and kind of hold in place before you actually turn the lock. So maybe it'll make it easier, because sometimes turn locks can be really difficult. So maybe this will make it easier, just experimenting and seeing if I can make that something that's a little easier to do. And so that's pretty much where I'm at. So I'm going to take this off. Now this here is a little detail we're just kind of playing with. Just kind of painted it or dyed it to see what. We've used it like 4 or 5 times. That's why it's all cracked up and stuff. But we finally put it on here to kind of see what the effect was. And so we really like it a lot. So what we're going to do is go out and buy some lacing that's round. And hopefully, I think that round will give us a cleaner, better effect than a flat leather lacing like this. So we're going to do that, take this off, do that. And because the handle is nice on its own, but we thought this would really make it pop a little bit more. Now on the flap, I've marked my little spots here with, normally I would have did this on my pattern, but this was a last minute decision to put these on, because I tend to design as I go along, whereas, you know, Linda can sketch it out and it works, and she goes from there. Plain. So anyway, That's pretty much where we're at. Let me show you a little bit. So I've marked it here with my awl just to see where the center is, like here and here. And so I'm going to put these little babies here and here, and it'll come in like this, you see. So it'll kind of like be the first thing once it flaps over there. It kind of hold in place, but they're not extremely strong or anything like that. So that's kind of why I'm using them the way I am. So sometimes when you get hardware, you know, you gotta make it work. And this is a nice little effect. I really love it. And so I'm using these little babies here I got from OTB too. So with all of that said, let me go ahead and show you some things about the flap that we're doing. Okay, now I'm hand stitching this, as you can see. And so I've stopped my stitch right here and tucked it underneath so it can hide it. But what I need to do now is attach this to the back here and then put that in place. What I wanted to show you is that underneath in our lining, I put some Pellin 926 in. Some Pellin 926. And you can get a little heavier if you like. And this just gives my flap a little bit of body, and it also gives it a nice feel. So it's not very thick, but it does do something. It does help with the way your flap feels and looks. And see, I did this under in the lavender. I can't really see lavender, I'm colorblind, but Linda tells me it's lavender. So that's pretty much where we're at. I'm going to attach that. Then I'm going to do my edges. I'm going to do them in this lavender color. Tomorrow we'll put some more cording on the handle and start to sew this baby up. And so what's going to go down is Linda's going to come in, and she is going to go over the most important part of the bag, sometimes I feel, which is the lining. So she's going to go over the lining with you. She's going to show you how to do the pattern and think the process out. She's putting a middle divider and some other things in it. So that's pretty much where we're at this point. And based on everything, I guess this bag should be ready. And a little editing on this video. I'll put some music in, some drums, boom, 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 boom. And this will be ready to do. So it's turning out really nice. I love where it's going. I think it's a beautiful thing, and we'll see what it looks like when we're finished. So the next person I'm going to hand you over to is Linda.
Hi, this is Linda. I'm making the lining for the Eva Maria purple and white bag. And so what we decided to do was a drop-in lining, and it's a T-bottom construction. So this is my master of the lining. And so to make this stay that's going to be in here, that we wanted to put in here, you mark certain points of your master pattern. You start with, the first point is where the top meets your gusset. That's point A. You measure out about 1.5 inches to B, mark B, then go down about 1 inch, it's C, then go in below A but a little to the right, D, and then you angle in to this point here, E. Okay, so this will give you this stay to put in your lining. The reason why we're using that stay is because it is a bit of a floppy drop-in lining. I know a lot of people don't really like drop-in linings because they're kind of floppy. So to alleviate that, what you do is put this stay in there. And here's an example of, this is my mock-up that I did. that has the stay in it. It's glued down, and it comes all the way up to the top here. Mine has this collar, but this is the mock-up for the Eva Maria bag. It's not the real lining. Sometimes I do little mock-ups before I sew the actual one, just to make sure it fits. So yeah, so to get this shape, you cut where those marks are, the A, B, C, D, E, and then you mark it on the other side, and you get this pattern right here, and that will be for your stay. I also am using this for a pocket inside. I drew out my window here. I'm actually going to use this stay to cut the window out. So that'll be where my zipper pocket is. And I marked here where my applique will be for that zipper pocket. So that's basically it. It's just a T-bottom, but it has this structure in here, which is a tailored piece to make it a little more substantial and not be so floppy. So this is how it looks. You know, I glued it down, and see how it's more structured, and then these parts go into the gusset and they'll hold in place. As opposed to without that, it's just a floppy piece of fabric. So this really helps with that lining. And then on the other side, you can do another pocket or whatever you want to do on the other side. And then you just sew it up as a T-bottom lining, as you normally would. Okay, that's basically it.
So sometimes when you're constructing your bag, you got to build it up or give it body the way you want it to, how you want it to function. In this case, we're making some modifications because of the flap. Because we want the flap in all of this to push against the flap so that all the hardware fits properly and goes in the right place. So that means the front and the back have to be stiffened up. We're loving the sides and the gusset because look, the whole bag can fold up into this nice, like, less than an inch, right? So I'm loving all of that. But in the front, it's a bit too soft to make the turn lock function properly, and to also give these a duty, so something to do besides look pretty. So what we're going to do is modify the pattern. So I'm over here modifying the pattern, and one of the little funny things I learned to do is when I'm, look, we live over a flight zone, here comes a plane. The hazards of living in the big city, and I'm going to edit all that out. But anyway, so one of the things I do when I'm hand stitching, especially, I need to know where my hand stitch is. So I need to know where my stitch line is. So I take my tracer or spreader or whatever you want to call this, and I go along the pattern to the same. This is where my stitch line is on the here. This is where my stitch line is, right? So I take it and I go over my pattern, and this tells me, I'll go like this, and this will tell me exactly where my stitch line is. And the reason I'm going to cut this out, and this is going to become my stay. And this stay is going to, I'm going to call it my stability stay, right, for a better word. Stability. If I hope if I spelled it right. But stability stay for a better term for right now. So when I'm through with that, I'm going to cut some 030 to give it a lot of body, and then I'm going to cover it with some 926 Pellin to give it a little feel. And that's it, because here comes another plane. Bye. Here's the lining, the inside of the bag. We trimmed it out with a leather trim. And we made our little zipper window out of leather, so it looks really nice, nice contrast and style inside with the leather and the fabric lining. Simple drop in. It is a tail. We kind of tailored this drop in so that it would stay against the front and back and not be so floppy. And some drop ins can be really floppy inside. So this one has a nice clean finish to it. Ready, press the button.
Go.
Okay. All right. As you can see, we put our bag together now. We finished it off. Everything looks really great. It came out just the way we had planned for it to come out. We did do a little minor adjustments on the back and doubled our scallop here so that we could lift our flap up a bit. But all in all, it turned out really, really great. We think it's a really beautiful bag. And so we just want to encourage you to go and to the Google store and download our free app, and also enter our raffle. And we'd also like to throw a big old thank you to OTB, our partner, on this particular video. They were generous enough and supplied us with some of this beautiful hardware that we were able to use on this particular bag. So again, go download our app, enter the raffle, and win one of these babies. Hand stitched, my DNA all over it. Can't beat that. All right, so go download it. Go download the app, enter the raffle, and that's the end of this one. See you in the next one.